How many books are you working on right now?
A couple at once. One of them is an introduction to philosophy for beginners by the use of the Socratic method.
Oh, excellent.
And I'm going to write one comparing the two greatest novels ever written, The Brothers Karamazov and The Lord of the Rings, finding common themes.
I agree those are the two best books ever written. I think I would have said that too, yeah. And finding commonalities in the two.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm interested now.
Yeah, can I ask to give some of that away, or do you want to hold on to all that?
One of them is a Russian word, zabornost, which is usually translated universality or the cosmic dimension of divine providence. We are each responsible for all, somehow.
Yes, yes.
That was one of the few ideas that radically changed my mind simply by reading a novel. Dostoevsky didn't prove it to me, he showed it to me in The Brothers Karamazov. And you see it throughout The Lord of the Rings, too.
Well, it's Father Zosima who says this, isn't he?
Yes.
I forget the context or who he says it to, but
yes,
Alyosha perhaps. But how is that displayed? How did Dostoevsky show that in the novel, that we're responsible for all?
Mainly by Alyosha, who practices it. He is an angel in his vocation. Angel means messenger. And he doesn't do much. He's a very ordinary person and nothing very spectacular, but he just talks to people. And he's the oil in the pistons that makes everybody else's engine run.
Yeah. And what's so beautiful about Alyosha is how he treats, at least in the beginning and throughout the book, how he treats his father with, he doesn't judge him.
Yes.
He doesn't seem to judge anybody.
He's a realist. He doesn't idealize him,
right?
But he simply doesn't judge him.
Yeah. And
Dostoevsky's letters show that he was working on a sequel to The Brothers Karamazov. He died before he could do it. And Alyosha was going to marry Lisa.
Okay.
And have a very troubled life.
Interesting. Well, that's another way in which Alyosha isn't the obvious hero, at least the way in which we might write a story today, in that he even just leaves the monastery and marries the cripple Lisa.
Well, Dostoevsky says in his preface that Alyosha is a very strange hero. He is my hero.
Yeah.
But he's a very ordinary man, and yet he's eccentric, which means that eccentricity is ordinary. And most of us who are not eccentrics are extraordinary for lacking that
where is
eccentricity.
Let me grab it. I'm going to grab, you
Okay.
keep talking. I'm going to grab Dostoevsky's book over here.
Good.
There's that section in the Brothers, and it kind of speaks to what we've been addressing, right? About this desire for heaven now and not being able to get it, and maybe wanting to kamikaze all the cherished relationships you have in order to find what doesn't exist.
That's also Tolstoy. Anna Karenina is a perfect example of that.
I said to this last time, I read half of it and got bored, which is my fault, clearly. I'm not blaming Tolstoy, in case anyone's wondering.
Yes.
Who's the fella who's, I forget the brother, because I haven't read this in a few years, who wants Grushenka?
Well, of course, Fyodor wants Grushenka.
Well, yes, but
Dmitri wants Grushenka.
Okay, well, I just want to read this to you, and I'd love you to comment on it, because this is one of the most beautiful parts in all the Brothers for me that breaks my heart, right? With sinking soul, he waited every moment for Grushenka's decision and kept thinking that it would occur as if unexpectedly by inspiration. Suddenly she would tell him, "Take me, I'm yours forever," and it would all be over. He would snatch her up and take her to the end of the world at once. Oh, at once, take her far away, as far as possible. If not to the end of the world, then somewhere to the end of Russia. Marry her there and settle down with her incognito so that no one would know anything about them, not here, not there, not anywhere. Then a totally new life would begin at once. He dreamed of the other, this renewed and now virtuous life. It must be virtuous, ceaselessly and feverishly. He thirsted for this resurrection and renewal. The vile bog he had gotten stuck in of his own will burdened him too much, and like a great many men in such cases, he believed most of all in a change of place. If it weren't for these people, if only it weren't for these circumstances, if only
syndrome.
If only one could fly away from this cursed place, then everything would be reborn. That was what he believed in and what he longed for.
Yes.
Isn't that just gorgeous? And the human experience and idiotic and lovely all at once.
Yes. And Dostoevsky's exaggerated characters, like Flannery O'Connor's grotesqueries, show us ourselves there. We see our own Dmitri. We see our own Alyosha. We see our own Ivan. We see our own Fyodor, as Fyodor Dostoevsky saw. This is why he named his villain after himself. Give me that book a minute. I want to find the passage in the introduction where he's talking about eccentricity.
Something I was thinking about Dmitri is, because they do end up, not to spoil, but they end up kind of going off together, except he's being sent off, I think, in a prison train.
That's right.
And she's being sent off to free him. So I think that maybe this is reading too much into it, but I think it's funny that their epilogue is kind of like, well, now they're off somewhere together, either in prison or, living their dream life.
Okay.
Like after they're kind of...
Is that the epilogue? Is that when they?
Well, it's not. I'm just saying.
Are they in Siberia at the end? Is that? I sometimes get Crime and Punishment mixed up. Did he get sent to Siberia?
Yeah, it leaves
Dmitri?
him being sent to Siberia, but Grushenka is going after him with a plan to free him from the prison, I believe. Yeah, if I'm remembering that right.
And like Socrates in prison, they bribe the guards and arrange for him to be freed, and he does not accept it.
Oh, really? I don't remember that part.
I think there's that scene. I like this thing about eccentricity because all of Dostoevsky's characters are eccentric. Starting out on the biography of my hero, Alexei Fyodorovich Karamazov, I find myself in some perplexity, namely that while I do call Alexei Fyodorovich my hero, still I myself know that he is by no means a great man. So that I can see the inevitable question, such as what is notable about your Alexei Fyodorovich, that you should choose him for your hero? What has he really done? To whom is he known? For what? Why should I, the reader, spend my time studying the facts of his life? One thing perhaps is rather doubtless. He is a strange man, even an odd one. But strangeness and oddity will sooner harm than justify any claim to attention, especially when everyone is striving to unite particulars and finding at least some general sense in the general senselessness, whereas an odd man is most often a particular and isolated case. Is not so. Odd man out. Now, if you do not agree with this last point, and if you reply not so, or not always, then perhaps I shall take heart concerning the significance of my hero, Alexei Fyodorovich. For not only is an odd man not always a particular and isolated case, but on the contrary, it sometimes happens that it is precisely he, perhaps, who bears within himself the heart of the whole, while the other people of his age have, for some reason, been torn away from it for a time by some kind of flooding wind. Here are two examples of odd people, Jesus Christ and Adolf Hitler. There was a book written by Max Picard after the war, published in 1945, I believe, entitled The Hitler in Ourselves. If you don't see the potentiality for Hitler in you, something wrong with you. If you don't see the potentiality and the need for Christ, we're destined to be little Christs.
What I said a moment ago about I don't trust any man who's been married for 15 minutes who doesn't feel the temptation at times to blow the whole thing up.
Yes.
And I've said that, and people have been very offended at that, like as if I must not love my wife. But it's just what you're saying there. Like, yeah, you have a Hitler in you.
Well, I have no temptation to blow my wife or children up, but I have a temptation to blow things up. I have this dream of taking an axe and starting with every computer, destroying it and laughing, and then doing the same to the house. I'm not that good a carpenter or a plumber or anything, and then to the whole of civilization. That's a very dark dream. It doesn't come to hating people, but it comes to hating the limitations of the things that do not fulfill my dreams. So I understand that Dmitri passage that you just read.
Yes.
There's got to be an ideal world. No, there isn't. Yes. You'd be bored with it. It's impossible. It's impossible to imagine heaven.
Yeah.
Because of the problem of boredom.
Absolutely.
Make a list of all the things you want to be in heaven.
Done.
All the things you don't want to be in heaven.
Done.
Imagine getting it. How long before you're bored? Not very long.
Yeah. Like 5 years if I get breaks in between and naps. Yeah. I actually do find Socrates' response to his friends comforting when they talk about the afterlife. especially the bit about should there be nothing at all. Maybe I'm not supposed to feel this way as a Christian, but okay, if there is nothing, and he says in the dialogue that it would just be like a dreamless sleep, and who doesn't like that? Or something to that effect.
I didn't get that reaction. I was disappointed by that. I don't want to sleep. I want to be awake. Dreamless, yeah, that's good. Dreams are an alternative to reality. But sleep is an image of death, and death is our last enemy. It's not Christ transforms it into our friend. It's like he converts Gollum.
Thanks so much for watching. Please like if you liked, and if you loved, subscribe.